stop blaming Donald Trump for your own racism. You know what you're doing. You know what you're doing's wrong.
This is Stephanie Díaz de León.
This is Nicholas Garton.
This is Omar Waheed.
And this is Rob Chappell.
And it's 365 Amplified. Can I say, the way that Rob shifts into like podcast mode, you can see the minute he pushes that button. Like he is looking at that monitor, watching those levels.
Yeah, it's called being a performer.
That's not who we are.
The stage goes on.
The stage
Red
goes on.
leather, yellow leather, and
Sea Eagle. Sea Eagle.
What does that mean?
Eagle?
I don't know what
that's a one?
That's a
Yeah.
one. I don't know what that is. I don't know red leather, yellow leather either.
That's
Really?
a lot of leather.
That's I know. I mean, are you wearing that leather?
No, it's a vocal warm up.
Yeah, I don't do-
get you going.
Many mumbling
you-
mics.
like
If you've heard me over the years, I do no vocal warm-ups, and we all know it.
she sells seashells by the seashore.
The sixth
Same
sheep,
thing.
sixth sheep is sick.
You've never done any of these things?
These
No,
are not theater
obviously
majors.
no.
Omar.
Obviously, but also, what like the red leather? Where like what is it on? Is it on a bag? Is it
No,
on
no,
a, like,
you
is it
just
on a
say
pair of
it.
Pants?
It's just words
Is
that
it
you're saying.
is a jacket? Well, I'm just now interested.
what's a
I would
sea
love
eagle?
a yellow leather jacket, faux leather, but like I
With
would
red
love it.
sleeves or something?
What?
A yellow leather jacket with red leather sleeves?
No, just yellow, just pure. I
Okay.
have a like
Well, what's the
maroon
red
red
leather then?
one, but like the red one could be a bag.
I never thought about it, and I think yellow leather would look kind of gross.
No, not at all. Not with my coloring. It would look amazing. But it might look gross. Like, Rob, you can't wear yellow.
No.
No.
In fact, the point is, these are all vocal warm-ups.
Oh, okay. We're going back to you all.
For those of us who speak too
I was
fast
just saying that, like,
and have to be in
you,
shows.
you got into, like, you turned on,
Mm.
like, right away.
Mhm.
And it was interesting. Because the rest of us were kind of giggling. And you were, like, serious. And I was like, oh,
No,
serious.
no, I get it.
Yeah, I know you do. You're like, what do you mean? You defend Rob.
It makes sense. You just flip on the mode. It's,
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I believe it. All right, let's go ahead and head into, sorry, that's just observations that I'm going to say all the time. Y'all know what you're listening to when you come on this podcast. And most of it is chaos, not from Rob.
Right.
Let's
because
go.
I'm serious. I'm
Yeah.
the one who turns it on.
Let's go ahead and move into the first story. We want to talk about this story,
Yeah.
Rob, on Madison365.org.
Something I published yesterday that came to my attention Monday, I guess. The University of Wisconsin Office of Human Resources has a division within it called Equity, Inclusion, and Employee Well-Being, which was formed in 2022 as a means of retention. This is, keeping in mind, this is within HR. Right?
And you mean like campus?
This is
university-
campus HR.
university
Like a lot
HR.
of the colleges and stuff have their own HR.
Mhm.
This is campus HR because there's, how many employees are there even?
So many.
Too many.
Tens of thousands of employees, right?
Yeah.
It's a major
Mhm.
employer, right? So you got a
UW is a rather large employer on
HR, right?
In the state.
Right. And retention is always an issue, right? Turnover is bad, generally speaking. And retention of people of color is especially difficult in a mostly white institution. And that's just an acknowledgement that the university made. So they created this office to not only to help people feel like they belong and welcome and whatever, which as it means to retain talent. And one of the things they did was they actually, in 2022, 2023, in addition to hiring people to do that work, but they sort of adopted a thing that had already been happening.
Mhm.
These by-walk lunches. Black and Indigenous women of color had been having these monthly lunch events, just sort of as an informal. It started in one particular division, and then kind of became campus-wide, and it was a grassroots organic effort. And so that was happening for almost like 10 years, I guess. The HR office sort of adopted that and took that on as a more formal HR thing. And they also started to do these monthly BIPOC lunches, which was for sort of all gender, just people of color. These have been funded. They're not super expensive. They're like between 40 and 60 people for lunch. And they've been funded by on-campus sponsors. So other departments have sponsored them and paid for the food and space and stuff like that. And what I heard from folks who have attended these is it's just they weren't heavily programmed. It wasn't always like a keynote speaker or anything like that. It was just a place to be together for a couple of hours. Mm-hmm. Which, okay. And I posted this on Reddit yesterday. Folks were like, some people, as always, the same people who are like, why isn't there a White History Month? I was like, can you imagine if we had a white employees lunch?
You do.
Yeah, every other lunch.
It's called the first floor of the dining hall. Yeah.
Right. So the point is that for white folks who don't get it, it's this time for a couple of hours out of your whole freaking month that you don't have to code switch, right? You don't have to be on edge. You don't have to be like, let's not make the white people upset, which is it's a real thing, right? And it's a place where we can look across the table and kind of just know each other, right?
Yeah, and it's also a networking space, right? Like it's an opportunity to just network across campus with folks who might have similar experiences, and often for folks they're coming outside of UW, right? So like they're newer to Madison area and such, so they can meet people and get a sense of like what's a good grocery store, what's a good coffee shop kind of thing too.
In fact, one person who was a regular attendee of these things told me that I've been on campus 15 years, and this is the only place where I regularly meet new people that I haven't met before.
Yeah.
Who also have been here for that long.
Yeah.
But we're in our silos and we're not crossing paths except in this space that's intentionally created for us.
Yeah, there's over like 20,000 employees at UW.
Mm-hmm. Of whom less than like 10, 20% are people of color.
Oh, less than that.
Probably less than that, yeah.
Yeah,
we know the student body is way
rather
less
low.
than 1%. So these things existed, not necessarily expensive things. Wasn't paid for by HR. It was paid for by these,
different partnerships that they had built.
Other units within UW. Yet, not for any particular reason, not for any specific threat or promise or deal, Office of Human Resources just decided to not do these anymore. And Monday that was announced in an email to the BIPOC Network is the organization that sort of like put these on, but the BIPOC Network is several hundred people of color on campus who've signed up, who've opted in, right? So these events it wasn't even like every person of color even was invited. It was people who've opted into this network.
Yep.
Right? Who would be the ones who knew about it. I guess everybody was welcome. And again, this is another side tangent here. This is one of those spaces that is created for people of color, but to which white people are invited, right? Like white people could show up and it'd be fine, and people did. But again, it's not for us, but we could go if we wanted to, which is fine. But for citing fiscal and federal pressures and various other vagaries which we know about, which you can talk about, they just decided to pull the plug on these. Made the point that the network will still exist, even though these events are basically the only thing the network did. And the UW spokesman made a point to say employees can still do it on their own if they want to. Like, well, obviously you're not going to stop people from having lunch together, but basically it can go back to the way it was, which is sort of organic and grassroots. So if members of this network want to keep playing and have lunch together, they can, but it's no longer an intentional effort by the Human Resources Department. And the one guy I talked to who goes to these things regularly called it anticipatory compliance, right? Which is basically like, a year and a half ago, UW the UW system, the Universities of Wisconsin Board of Regents, struck this deal with the legislature saying we're going to cut or reassign or reimagine at least a third of the DEI positions around campus. And a few other things in exchange for legislative funding, state funding, the state funding has always been there. State funding didn't actually come through. The state funding for the engineering building, and so the legislature still is kind of not holding up their end of the bargains, but still, with the Trump administration putting pressure on research grants for federal institutions and trying to purge DEI from the federal government, HR decided we're not going to do these lunches anymore. Who knows if this is the first step? I mean, the equity, inclusion, and employee well-being thing still exists, and those titles are still those titles. Those are probably going to change at some point, I would imagine. But these lunches have nothing to do with positions, titles, or anything like that. So I don't know why these lunches are the first thing they decided to pull the plug on. But they did, and I think people are unhappy. But again, who knows? This is sort of a first step, right? And again, it's anticipatory. This is not anything that was threatened or anything that like administration or legislator or anything said these lunches have to go. But they pulled the plug anyway. All that said, anybody here, listening, who's attached to UW, who knows things that are happening or has even just feelings about things that are happening, I know you're not supposed to talk to us, but you can, and we'll keep you anonymous, right? Mm-hmm. It's important that these stories be told. It's important that stakeholders and taxpayers know what's happening at this university, and that's what we're trying to do. And it's frightening because the chancellor's office and the commerce department basically, have people muted, and people rightly think they're going to get in a lot of trouble for talking to the press, mm-hmm. and that's it's unfortunate. But if anybody feels like they want the story to be told and in a way that doesn't compromise your identity, reach out.
Well, I do. So I think that it's not anticipatory. Stop blaming Donald Trump for your own racism. Mm. You know what you're doing. You know what you're doing is wrong. You know what you're doing is singling out people who don't look like you, aren't from the same background as you. And we just had an election in which Wisconsinites all over the state rejected the notion that they were for sale. But these higher institutions of education and corporations can't say the same. They care more about their federal funding than they care about racism and misogyny and transphobia and all of these other things. That's not because of Donald Trump. That's because of you. So if you're the person in HR making this decision, then you're the one who's racist because Donald wasn't in your office doing this and destroying this lunch. You did that. And it's really unfortunate that we don't have anybody calling that out the way it really is. Mm-hmm. All of these people know what they're doing is marginalizing other people. And the only reason that they're able to do it is because people are threatened and feeling afraid to speak out, or media outlets aren't doing it, all that stuff.
So I work for UW, but all my thoughts and opinions and such are not reflective of UW. Just a reminder for everybody, there are certain things I'm going to talk about, but certain things I'm not going to talk about. I will say that there could have been, I think what Nick just said, and I think it's important for us to remember, there can be ands in this conversation. We can protect our research funding and support folks who work in DEI or whatever language you want to use for it, right? Mm-hmm. There could be ands. We choose not to lean to work in ands. We're working only in ors because that's what whatever reason why you're doing that, that's a choice, and you have to acknowledge that choice. Also, the only way these folks, based on the article that you wrote, Rob, and the information that you were given in that, was that the folks who were part of this network, who've been part of this network formally for 3 years, right? 2022, but at least, more than that for some folks, was to receive an email saying that, hey, tomorrow's event is canceled, right? Yeah. Or this week's event is canceled and the rest of the series is canceled. What? How? Again, maybe you couldn't continue this project on anymore, or this network on anymore in a formal way, but you can still give care to those folks. You can say, at the next one, we're going to have a larger discussion because we are no longer able to do this. How do we help you give information so that this can continue on? Here are the resources. Here are the things that we know that we can do. We are sorry that we're not able to do this because of this, whatever reason why. Mm-hmm. What you sent them an email the week of with this sudden decision, and then said not it. Yeah. Like literally went not it.
I didn't put this in the story because it was a relatively small detail, but they sent that email and then canceled a bunch of calendar events.
Yeah.
So people were like, all of a sudden, get a bunch of alerts on their calendars, like this is canceled, this is canceled, and they're like, what's going on?
Yeah. And all of a sudden, and that's how they found out, right? And I am not necessarily blaming those folks who are doing this work every single day and such like that because they're in a position where they're being told what to do. Right, but there is a level of care that we could have provided as a system, as an organization of people who are saying like, no, we care about our BIPOC employees. We are unfortunately in this space where we can't do it formally this way, but here are some ways that we can do it informally, and here are some resources for that. HR, like campus HR, your job is to help kind of provide resources and such. At least that's the way that you talk about what you provide. You provide a service to campus, or you are there to protect campus. Which role are you playing in, right? Like which hat you wearing today? And I just wish there would have been a bit more care about those employees if you're talking about retention and trying to retain them. And as you were saying, and here, look, the excuse for why they're like, we're trying to protect our research. It's an important, function for us. You're gonna as you were protecting only research or these dollars in this way, you're gonna lose those employees. And you're going to lose the opportunity for some really incredible future employees to come to UW for not protecting BIPOC folks, always and forever. I just wish there would have been more care.
Yeah. The last sentence of the email was, we deeply appreciate your partnership in helping build communities to support employee belonging and well-being, and we look forward to re-engaging with these networks as we continue to reimagine our services and programs. Like they keep saying.
But you didn't give any care in this part. Yeah. How are you asking us to come back in when you've broken trust? In what ways? You don't necessarily want to even formally tell us other than send an email and cancel all these things. But you say in this email, if you read it at the very bottom.
Mm-hmm. No, we mean it. We definitely
we totally mean it.
All in, but we're not going to actually do anything. But what Nick said, I think, is really important. And I've gotten the sense more broadly that a lot of businesses and institutions who are now pulling back on DEI stuff like this, especially stuff that started after 2020, kind of didn't want to do it in the first place.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It was performative as heck. Thanks for reminding us that we were performative to you.
Yes.
Which is why I'm saying, you're going to lose incredible recruits, whether they're research recruits or athletic recruits or, future staff recruits and, student recruits. Yeah, they're going to say no. They're not going to come here. And you need them.
Right. And the fact that the Trump administration and the state legislative pressure is just a really easy, like you said, you can blame Donald. We love black and brown people, but we just can't because of Donald, because of the funding, because of the legislature, because of whatever. I'm just not buying it. You didn't really want to do this. You felt pressure to do this after 2020. You finally got around to acting like you were going to do it after 2020. And
but the minute you could.
But the minute you could pull the plug.
The minute you could.
What you're doing.
And like I said, we can do ands in this, right? Hey, we need to expand our language around DEI. Fine. It can be an and. We could think about, how do we do more to make sure we're more inclusive in these ways and blah, blah, right? There can be ands in this. But systems like this keep only looking through a lens of or, right? Mm-hmm. Either we do this or we do that. Mm-hmm. And if we can't do that, let's just cut it out completely.
Well, let's be honest. The and here is we can do this, and this, and support all of our people of color and our marginalized communities and preserve white men's feelings. That's kind of what a lot of it's about.
I don't care.
Right.
But they're not. It's not even part of the conversation.
Right.
Because it's or. It's not even an or. It's not even
right.
White people and their feelings aren't necessarily centered.
So
okay.
So we got.
And let's figure out a way to do it this way then. Fine. Yeah. How do we get them to feel this way or that way. I don't care. Like, but it's the decision making that we're doing here that is causing so much lasting, like, systemic harm again.
And what we're talking about here is a monthly lunch.
Yeah.
Right?
Like, we can't even do that.
Yeah.
And that's the first thing we pull the plug on. Like, there's a lot more bigger stuff.
Well, that's the first visible thing that
Yeah.
we have heard got the
Yes.
plug from, right? Like,
Right.
I'm sure there are other things, microaggress, that they pulled the plug on. I'm sure
Yeah.
that like
Lunch.
well, we weren't invited. You were. Well, we're not centered.
Right.
So it
So
has
therefore-
to be an or. We have to take that out.
The president will be mad about it, and therefore we can't do it anymore.
Or the legislature's gonna be mad about it.
Right.
They're always mad.
They're always mad about
They're
something.
always
They're
mad.
going to find something else to be mad about.
They are. I mean, they're always mad. And you made this one deal, and you're not gonna get your money.
Right. Yeah.
Like, what do you? Why?
Betray themselves for nothing.
Every time.
Yep.
Because they, like
Every
I said,
time.
like they keep doing these ors. There's no ands in this. And there could have been an and. There could have been a conversation with this network of folks and be like, how do we do this differently?
Mm-hmm.
Because we can't, like, it's not, given this structure for which we, very vague about what we can and can't do. How do we fit this in here? How do we reimagine it? Like I said, we're talking about how do we reimagine things. Like, how did you not reimagine with some of the smartest people in that room?
Right.
The folks who've been doing this work for years. How did you not reimagine with them?
You can't even imagine a lunch.
I mean, do we? I'll be nice.
Yeah. So anyway, the stories at Madison365.org will continue to follow that and everything that's happening at University of Wisconsin and all the other institutions around as the anti-DEI backlash, whatever. We'll stay on top of it.
Oh, it's just historic, y'all. Like, it's not even like
Yeah.
a new thing. Like, it's a new backlash, or it's like it's backlash. I'm like, it's not. We are just. I think Nick pointed out something
Yep.
like we just brought back who we were in 2019,
Yeah,
in 2018,
100%.
and like that's all we're doing. We're resorting to our most, like, the easiest way to do things.
Every day I understand a little bit more why my parents said, I don't want to raise my children of color in Wisconsin.
Said every parent ever.
Uh-huh.
That's why we moved to Iowa.
I don't.
Surprisingly less racist.
That is
Who would
surprising.
have guessed?
Who would
That
have
is
known?
surprising.
Not me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and move into
Let's talk about something else for
Yeah,
a minute.
new story.
Let's talk about nurses. Omar, you went to did you go to the rally?
I did go to the Strike Ready rally. Unity Point Meritor nurses held it wasn't a strike. It was a pre-strike rally to show their intention that if they don't come to the table and actually negotiate and meet these demands that they've had for years, that they will go on strike and it will be bad.
What are the demands?
Better pay.
That's a good place to start.
It's a good place. Actually retain staff and attract staff so it can increase their ratios to actually treat patients, which translates into its third demand: facilitate quality patient care without adequate compensation, workplace safety, and ratios to treat the people. The patient care quality is dropping, which is what they've been trying to bring attention to since 2019.
Oh wow!
So they have been doing this over and over again. The last time they tried to go on strike, the city somehow managed to enact Act 10 over it.
Yep.
Which I don't know how that works there because they are not.
Public employees.
That's what I was thinking.
Excuse me.
But they do have a public duty, so so on and so forth.
All right. Is there a strike deadline?
Well, that's a great question. They had a contract, and that actually expired on March 16th. They agreed to renew it to March 23rd, so they have been working without a contract since.
Okay.
They held the pre-strike rally April 8th. That is the right date. April 8th, they held the pre-strike rally to voice their intentions that if this doesn't progress, that we will go on the full strike. They had a meeting on April 9th, and they have a next one on May 1st that will decide whether or not they will indeed go on strike.
Okay, so maybe not a hard deadline, but like May 1st is when we'll look again and see.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We'll find out. If that happens, a lot of nurses will be going on strikes, and that will have a huge impact on just everything.
On care,
That translates into everything. If you don't have nurses to staff the hospitals, what are you going to do?
Mm-hmm. That's the Unity Point Meritor is they have a bunch of clinics around town, and also St. Mary's Hospital, or the hospital used to be called St. Mary's, on Park Street. So which is a big institution. Mm-hmm. So important. The other thing you were reporting on this week, Omar, is Literacy Network going back to federal funding.
Yes.
Yeah.
They got a big grant canceled, didn't they?
They did. They were offering citizenship instruction and naturalization courses through a federal grant, the Citizenship Instruction and Naturalization Application Services grants, or CNIS, for lawful permanent residents to prepare them for U.S. naturalization. They suddenly just got a letter from the Department of Homeland Security stating that they are no longer issuing it because it's no longer within the department's priorities because it is enabling illegal immigration. Keep in mind, this is not for anyone who is illegal. This is for lawful permanent residents who have been here for a minimum of 3 years to qualify to be in any CNIS program for U.S. naturalization. The Literacy Network has got $74,000 cut, which funded the entire program that has been going on since October 1st, 2023. To date, they have served 175 people, but they're continuously getting that ramped up. This year, they were on track to hit over 100. So they have been continuously increasing their impact, but the sudden loss of all that money means they don't know what they can do. They can't provide these courses. It was funded externally there. So the party, the Republican Party, has often pretended, we like legal immigration. You just got to come in the right way. Well, these people did.
Just apply for citizenship.
And they've been here for a while.
Yeah.
And they're going through all the hoops. And they are still being disenfranchised. So that's upsetting, right? The Literacy Network is looking for an alternative because they do still want to fund these courses because it is very much so in line with their mission to support literacy and support marginalized communities, especially immigrants who are seeking a better life in the U.S. and seeking citizenship. But they don't really have any ideas yet. They have been reaching out to its donors and supporters for any ideas, maybe some fundraising efforts, and they will try to recoup the courses and have those going again as soon as humanly possible, if possible.
$74,000. So where are all of these like wealthy, do-gooding progressive libs that I've been hearing so much about in Madison and Wisconsin and the Midwest? Some of you could afford to band together and have $74,000 to make sure that America stays America. But where are you? Why aren't you
selling your
this?
Teslas and using that money?
Sell a Tesla and give this money to the Literacy Network.
They have friends that are people of color already.
So they've done their work?
They've
Is that what
done
you're
their
saying?
work.
They have friends who are immigrants even.
Legal, though.
Legal. Yes.
They have shopped at a black-owned business before, so they are fine.
Our listeners are feeling very called out right now.
Well, if you have money like that, you are being called out because you're the problem here. Like, why should all these people have to rely on federal funding with some racist dictator sitting in the office instead of just being able to privately do it and raise money and keep these services going.
Yeah, create an endowment fund for them so they can
Yeah.
continue to do that and not rely on that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's ways to do this, and hopefully folks hear what Nick is saying and what other folks are saying in terms of like, how do we best support something like Literacy Network that is something for all to access, right? And provide support for.
The Literacy Network is not just for immigrants and people of
Yeah.
color. It is for everyone to
Literacy.
combat illiteracy.
Yeah.
It is for everyone.
A literate like population and community.
We're just
is
talking about
so
one.
helpful.
We're just talking about one of their many programs.
Yeah.
Right. With the citizenship classes are one thing that they do, but they do lots of other things.
Yeah. And again, we're only thinking about ours.
All of you who sent $100 in the 80s to Ethiopia, shame on you. I mean, come on. You can't support the Literacy Network in your own town.
With that, we're going to turn the page and talk about another podcast
We are.
because we are very, very excited to announce that Black Oxygen is coming back.
Yay!
This is a weekly podcast. It's a Black-focused, Wisconsin-focused podcast that Angela Russell did for us over 150 episodes of over a few years. And
Award-winning.
multiple award-winning, and I talked with Angela and mentioned that, and she got all shy about it. But that'll be watch your feed on Monday. If you subscribe to Black Oxygen before, it'll just pop up. But search for Black Oxygen on Monday. We'll post the episode. We'll promote it. But this first one coming back, this next season is going to be focused on Black women, and Black women saving the country. This first one is Angela Russell and with Sagacious Livingston.
Oh, nice.
Infamous Mothers. She's got another book coming out soon. Fantastic person. And we're gonna take a little break, and then we'll come back. I'm gonna have a nice chat with Angela about Black Oxygen. And joining us now is a voice that'll be familiar to Madison and Wisconsin podcast people. One of the great podcast hosts in the state of Wisconsin, Angela Russell, host of Black Oxygen. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, Rob. It's so good to see you. So good to connect.
Yeah, so good to see you. I was thinking about it. You and I have known each other for almost 20 years. Do you realize that?
We don't need we don't need to put that out there.
We met in kindergarten.
Right. I'm in denial on so much stuff right now. Someone recently was pointing out to me that 1995 was 30 years ago. And I'm like, we don't actually need to talk about that.
Right, exactly. So we'll just brush right over that.
Because the 90s was only like 5 or 10 years ago, that great decade of awesome music. That was only like 5 or 10 years ago.
And all those albums sold up. I listened to them all. The REM and Offspring and Nirvana. It's all current. Concrete Blonde a little bit.
Yes, it is.
Right?
You know what's not current but should be? Tevin Campbell.
Yep, it should be. Let's bring it back. So the reason you're talking to us today is that you are, as I mentioned, the host of Black Oxygen, and Black Oxygen is starting up again right here at Madison 365 on Monday.
Yes, I am coming home.
Very exciting. We are so excited to have you coming back. Let's talk a little bit about sort of for people who may not have caught Black Oxygen in the last couple of years. I recall you bringing this idea to us in 2018 or so, probably.
It was in 2019, right?
Yep.
Before the start of the pandemic. I think it was November or December of 2019.
Okay, that makes sense. And then it was 2020. We decided let's just do this, and you were just driving it. But tell us a bit about the idea. What does that phrase Black Oxygen? What does that mean? Where does that come from?
So the history of the phrase Black Oxygen. So for my work, I travel a lot. I go out and do a variety of trainings and talks at conferences and do workshops all over the place. So in 2019, I was in California doing a workshop on diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Mhm.
And you know how when you go and give a talk or a workshop the night before, whoever is hosting you, they kind of take you to dinner, talk, chat a little bit and tell you about what you're going to face tomorrow, the next day.
Mhm.
So we did that and we were talking about our different styles. So this colleague of mine who lives in California, he's a Black guy from Inglewood, California. I'm a
Mhm.
Black woman from Wisconsin, who lives in Wisconsin.
Mhm.
And we were kind of chuckling about how our approaches are so different.
Mm.
He's super duper buttoned up and refined, and
Uh-huh.
and he's like, "You are super power to the people, and you're from Wisconsin." I'm like, "Yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah." He's like, "You need some more Black oxygen in your life." I'm like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "You
Well,
need to be surrounded by more Black voices more consistently." And
I can imagine your ears when he says the words black oxygen. I can see like your face is lighting up.
it
Your
did.
ears perking
It
up like,
did.
oh, I've never heard those words before,
Yes.
but I know exactly what they mean.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. And then I just sat with that phrase and journaled
Mm-hmm.
about it,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like, "Whoa, what does this even mean?" And then I had lunch with Henry. He's like, "You could write a column called Black Oxygen for Madison 365." And I'm like, "I'm a slow writer, but what if we did I'm a very slow writer. But
Yeah.
what if we tried out a podcast?" And for me, this podcast around Black Oxygen was really an attempt to amplify Black voices in Wisconsin. One of the
Mm-hmm.
things that I hear so much is that there aren't Black people in Wisconsin, and that's just not true.
Mm-hmm.
Just because someone doesn't know that there are Black people in Wisconsin doesn't mean that Black people don't exist.
Mm-hmm.
Um, is it a huge portion of the Wisconsin population? No, but that doesn't mean that Black voices don't exist. And not only that, would hear, particularly in Madison, there was one type of Black voice that would get kind of more airtime than others. So
Yep.
I
Yep.
wanted to amplify Black voices throughout Wisconsin, but also amplify the diversity of Blackness that exists throughout Wisconsin. And
Mm-hmm.
it's been such an honor and a pleasure and a joy. And my son notices when I stop recording or take breaks or whatever, he's like,
Mm-hmm.
"I notice that
Oh yeah.
not recording Black Oxygen impacts you, Mom. You need to keep doing this."
So recording the show Black Oxygen gives you your Black Oxygen.
It does. It does.
That was such an important point that you made, and I just want to revisit it a minute. And that I noticed that too when we started Madison 365. That back then, 2015, whenever the media needed to talk to any person of color, there were three
Mhm.
guys that they went to.
Yes.
You know, and
Yes.
I'm not going to name them, but three specific guys, all of whom are good friends of ours still,
Yes.
who are great guys.
Yes.
And but it's not fair that they became the voice of all brown and Black people.
Yeah,
It's
fully.
not fair to them. It's not fair to the rest of the community.
Yes.
So it's so important that you get past those guys,
Yeah, right.
and to lift up voices that have always been there,
Mhm. Mhm.
right? But you're not giving anybody a voice, but
Yep.
you're amplifying the
Yep.
voice that are there.
Absolutely.
So when somebody clicks on the Black Oxygen link and listens to an episode, what can they expect?
Oh, number one, you're gonna hear my laugh a lot. It's obnoxious. I'm sorry. I apologize in advance. I laugh a lot. The editor and producer of the podcast has to turn down my laughs or delete them because they're so often. So you'll hear my laugh. But I mean, it's one of the things that I really value about all of the guests that come on is the level of authenticity. I think
Mm,
sometimes when you are being interviewed or for a podcast or anything, there's a seduction for performance, and there's a seduction for performance in Wisconsin as a Black leader in Wisconsin, and it's easy to kind of get into that, I would say, trap. And I try to really have conversations that are much more authentic, much more real. And I'm not only just thinking about the listener when I have the conversations on Black Oxygen, I'm also wanting to make sure that the guest has a good experience too. So
Sure.
it's Black Oxygen for the audience, but
Mhm.
also a space where our guests can just like breathe, have
Mhm.
their shoulders relaxed a little bit, and just
Mhm.
say, it's you and me and a whole bunch of people listening, but it's also it's you and me. Let's kind of, what do you want to share with the world that
Mhm.
is top of mind? Those kinds of things. So authenticity, humor, sometimes some very touching stories
Mhm.
that I've that again that I'm surprised by, and sometimes the guests are even surprised that they end up sharing what they do. I hear
Mhm.
that often after a
Yeah.
recording.
And just something as a white person who listens, and just for my fellow white people out there, um, it's you'll notice that what one of the magic things about the way you interview people is that you get people to that authenticity when it's a black people talking to black people in a space that maybe white people are kind of invited to, but it's not for
Yeah.
us,
Right.
right? There's a
Right.
different manner of conversation. There's a different manner of speaking. There's a different level of vulnerability, maybe different language, different um, and and it what that reminds me of is the extent to which black folks, and I don't know if this is, you tell me if this is a specifically Wisconsin thing or not, but black folks kind of always you always have to be like on guard
Mhm.
around white people.
Mhm.
You know, or like maybe not on guard is not the right word. Maybe you can help me articulate this a little better. But that there's this always, and I've heard this from people. I'm not making this up, but
Yeah.
that there's always like the danger of getting us angry or getting us saying the wrong thing or getting us like you're almost like always having to make sure that we're comfortable with you,
Yeah, I mean, I think
right?
it's amplified in Wisconsin, but I don't think it's
Do you think
a
that's true
unique.
everywhere else?
Yeah. Can you still hear me?
Yeah. Hmm.
Okay. I don't think it's unique to Wisconsin. One of the things that I'm just bringing up right now, it reminds me of this poem by a poet named Paul Lawrence Dunbar. And he says, we wear the mask that grins and lies. It hides our cheeks and shades our eyes.
Mm.
This debt we pay to human guile. With torn and bleeding hearts we smile, and mouth with myriad subtleties. Why should the world be overwise in counting all our tears and sighs? We wear the mask. And that's just part of the poem.
Hmm.
So I'm very fully aware of the white gaze that comes to Black Oxygen.
Hmm.
Um, and I actually talk about that oftentimes with the guests before we start hitting record to say, know that this is a thing.
Hmm.
Um, what can I do to make this a good experience for you, knowing that the white gaze will be here?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
and that's important because
Hmm.
we all, I mean, for Black folks and a variety of other historically marginalized folks are going through life day to day wearing a mask. But my intention with Black Oxygen is to give a space where we can breathe and maybe take off
Hmm.
at least a couple of layers of the mask. I'm not
Hmm.
asking folks to like take off the whole thing
Yeah.
because
Right.
that can be dangerous, right?
Hmm.
But that mask thing that you're hitting on is so real.
Um, looking back over those couple of years, there's almost 4 years worth you did
Mhm.
this before you took a little hiatus and now coming
Yeah.
back. What how many interviews did you even do? Do you even know? I could probably just
Well over
look at the page.
100.
A lot, right?
Yeah, a lot.
Do you
Yeah.
have any that sort of um stand out in your memory that were like
Mhm,
just really like
mhm.
that's the one, or
I mean, I don't have that's the one. I have, some that I go back to often.
yeah.
One is one of the most memorable ones was my first conversation with Rudy Bankston, and
Mm,
it was so memorable for me. His story is phenomenal in and of
hmm.
itself. He is a phenomenal human being, but to get that level of trust and authenticity and connection, and we literally had met 10 or 15 minutes before we started
Oh wow.
recording was phenomenal to me. We didn't know each other at all. So that was astonishing, and I feel very grateful, and he and I have become friends as a result.
Uh-huh.
Sagacious, who's going to be on our first episode when I come back. Phenomenal. And just, gosh, there's just been so many. And it's the other thing that I have, like, I don't know, I feel very humbled by this, that there are professors throughout Wisconsin that use Black Oxygen as part of their curriculum and then send me feedback that they hear from the students on the episodes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's so
Like,
cool.
especially at the University of Wisconsin-Stevens Point, there's a professor that uses it semester after semester and then sends me feedback, which is
That's
pretty
so cool.
cool. There's another professor in Milwaukee that does that as well. People have met each other and tried new things as a result of this little idea that I had to try it out.
That's so cool. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, Sagacious Livingston is who you mentioned,
Yes.
author of Infamous Mothers, and she's got another book coming out, right?
Yep.
She's just a ton of things in terms of Black womanhood, Black motherhood, which leads us to what we can expect over the next couple of months.
Yeah,
right.
so
This next season has a specific
yes.
idea, right?
It does. I'm very, very excited about this season of Black Oxygen. And in my head, I call this season the 92%. So in the November 2024 election, we know that 92% of Black women voted for Harris.
Mm-hmm.
There's something that Black women know and have told us this whole time. Like, we've been telling y'all. We've been telling y'all. So I really want to focus this season on amplifying the voices of Black women in the state of Wisconsin and really saying, what is it that people need to know? Number one, about Black women, because we're amazing. Number two, of why did we know? Why did 92% of Black women know that Harris was supposed to be the person in office? And what other things can our state, our communities be learning from Black women, not in an exploitive way, because there's that, but what can folks be learning from? What should folks be learning from Black women? And what do Black women in the state of Wisconsin need to remain whole and hopeful and keep moving forward? So so in my head, I've got the 92% as a theme. And do I have it on right now? I do have it on right now. And almost every day I wear a little necklace that has Harriet Tubman on it, because Harriet knew too. So this season is all about amplifying the voice of Black women.
That's fantastic. Do you feel in your work, I mean, you work in this space, in this diversity, equity, inclusion space, and you're a nationally known leader, frankly, in that space. And that space is under, I don't know, scrutiny, maybe is the right word.
Yes.
Which we feel, I mean, because that's where we live too.
Yes.
But now this idea of yours and Black Oxygen sort of hit at kind of the right moment, right? When everybody was focused on that. And a lot of white people were like, oh, I'm ready now. I'm ready to listen now, now that this whole thing is happening.
Yeah.
But it's changed. And a lot of people, a lot of companies who committed to DEI work in 2020 are suddenly not anymore. And they're using this federal scrutiny as maybe kind of an excuse to be like, well, I guess we can't do this anymore. We never really wanted to in the first place. So, how do you feel about stepping forward with this voice, with this really important, powerful voice, and bringing Black women along with you in this context versus the context 5 years ago? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, there's a risk it's risky to do it, and it's also risky to not. So it's a cost benefit analysis, and I think, not to sound nerdy about it, but I think there is a risk for Black women continuing to remain invisible to our country, and that should not happen. We're here. We've been leaders, and leadership looks a lot of different ways. There's no one defined way of being a leader. There's leadership in being an artist, a musician, a poet, in a nonprofit, in a corporate setting. There's all different forms of leadership. And it's time for us to not be kind of left behind. I mean, this is going to sound, I'm going to code switch and just say, Black women be knowing. Like, people need to know we be knowing, right? Like, it's it's like, we know. So I think, yeah, is it risky? Yeah. But it's not any more risky than, and quite frankly, I think it's less risky than a lot of the stuff that our ancestors have done to get us to where we are today.
Yeah, that's real. That's real. I'll ask a bit about the forum. You know, Henry Sanders, our founder, first pitched it as a column. Like, that's going to take too long. But what about podcasts? Besides it just being like a sort of a natural fit for you and how you want to do stuff, it's that you're such a natural sort of like conversation person, interviewer. What is it about this forum that you think really resonates?
My honest answer is that I'm not fully sure. That's my very honest answer. I know that I love podcasts, so that's why I wanted to try it out. I have loved podcasts for many, many, many years. I like that I can go on a walk and listen to a podcast and learn something new. I like when there's an author that I really like, I try to find them on a podcast. If I'm preparing to interview someone for work that we have in as a guest, I go and find their podcast just to kind of listen to their cadence, how they talk. And for me, podcasts are just such a great way to learn and expand one's horizons for me, in a low effort way. I'm also a reader, but engaging with a book is very different than engaging with a podcast. And it's just, I don't know. I just love podcasts. And I don't know why it resonates with people, but it does.
I don't know.
You're a podcaster too.
Yeah, and I'm a veteran podcast listener, like have been since before Serial. But for me, I think it's just sort of the intimacy of it. The human voice is and like having somebody's voice like right here in your ears, just really feels connected. You know what I mean? And you can, it's and it feels like you really do get to know somebody through their when it's just their voice, and you're not reading, and there's no like visual cue really. But it's just this is why I don't understand video podcasts, because to me a video podcast is also called a TV show. But but I kind of like it that, like you say, it's kind of like I'm doing something else, right? I'm driving, or I'm walking, or I'm working out, or I'm or whatever. I find that I cannot, if I'm working, I can't listen to a podcast.
Yeah, same.
Because my job is words, right? I'm usually writing something, and I can't be listening to words and writing words at the same time.
Yeah.
But any other kind of task I can be doing, and it's just like, it's just the voices just sort of seep in. Even if you kind of lose track for a minute, they're still seeping in. And listening to Black Auction, especially, I have very clear memories of where and when I was listening and what I was doing when listening to Judge Everett Mitchell, for example.
Yeah.
You know, I have a very clear memory of assembling a dresser in my son's room, listening to Everett Mitchell 4 years ago. I mean, like, there's no reason I should remember that specific thing, but like, it's just such an intimate medium, I think, and it creates a real connection, I think, with people.
It really is. It's special, and I just feel totally honored and humbled and so grateful that the guests trust me as a co-creator of the space.
And that's so important.
And that the audience trusts me to know what they're going to get when they listen to Black Oxygen as well.
Yeah, it's so it's difficult to break through as a podcaster. It's difficult to break through to a big audience when your guest isn't a famous person, right? But you've created a small and but passionate group of people who, I don't care. I may have never heard of that person, but I know it's going to be an interesting conversation, and I'm going to learn something because Angela thought this person was worth the time.
Yeah.
Right.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, that's very cool. We should also mention this is an award-winning podcast, right?
Oh, right.
Wisconsin Innovation Award a couple years ago, and
Yes.
Milwaukee Press Club Award
Yes.
last year, I think.
Yes.
Gold Award, which is fantastic. There's a little plaque in our office, which is
Yes.
fantastic. And we're going to start up again Monday. So Monday, watch your feed. If you don't, we'll have a link to subscribe, so you can subscribe to the Black Oxygen feed. The other nice thing about Black Oxygen, the 365 Amplified podcast is tied to the news. So you like listening to one from 6 weeks ago is no longer relevant, but you can go back and listen to years ago, and there's
Yes.
still, you're still going to learn something, right?
Yes.
There's a whole back catalog that's really good stuff, right?
Yes.
So we'll have a link to the feed so you can listen to smaller episodes and subscribe so that you get the new ones, the Sagacious Livingston interview, first thing Monday morning in your feed. Then what's your expectation? I think we said every other week.
Every other week for a while, because
Mhm.
I got to get my life together.
Right. Yeah. Do you have other guests lined up that you can?
Not lined up,
not-
but I have a whole list of people that I am interested in
Okay.
having a conversation with.
So we're working on that, and they're all
Yes.
going to be great. How
Yep.
how many episodes are we going to do in this 92% series?
I'm thinking 15 to 20.
Oh, that's a lot. Okay, so like almost like the rest of the year.
I mean, yeah, I
If
think
it's every
so.
other week, that's awesome. Oh,
Yeah.
great. That's great. That's great to hear.
I mean, because there's a lot to talk. We have a lot to talk about as Black women, right?
And you have a lot of Black women to talk to in this state, more than
Fully.
people think, even.
Fully,
Right.
yes.
That's outstanding. Anything else you want to mention that I didn't ask about?
I mean, I'm just grateful for this continued partnership with Madison 365. It does feel like I'm coming home,
Mhm.
and I'm excited about the continued partnership.
We are too. And when I genuinely did a little pump fist when I heard it was happening again.
Awesome.
So, all right. Well, Angela Russell, thank you so much for the time, and we're so excited, and we'll have you back again on here at some point, I'm sure.
Sounds good. Thanks,
All right.
Rob. Bye.
Bye. And we're back, and thanks again to Angela for all that. And we're really looking forward to having Black Oxygen coming every other week starting Monday.
Hey, Rob, are you looking forward to it? Really looking forward to it?
Yeah, it's okay.
Take
it a little bit.
No. It's the second you went really.
Very excited.
Yeah, we are very excited for it. I'm excited that she's back, and looking forward to Monday's episode.
Mm-hmm.
To wrap up today's conversation,
Mm-hmm.
here's the question. It's not a very difficult question. I think everybody does this thing. But what is your midnight, like, Wikipedia, Google, like, research thing that you do? Like the little black hole you go into when you can't sleep or just up too late or just, your mind starts to wander.
I feel like it's different every couple of days.
That's what I'm saying.
Whatever.
Well, okay,
What's the
what's the latest one then? Stop
me.
me. What's the latest one? What was the last one you did?
I am a very inquisitive mind,
Oh, wow.
literati of sorts. I do read a lot of memoirs. I was like, this can't all be true. Let's go pour through their life story to see inconsistencies. So I do that a lot, a whole lot.
Whose memoir did you pick apart?
I think the last one I read was Tracy Morgan's I Am the New Black.
Oh, that's a good one, though.
So I did go into the research hole. If you've seen his TV show, The Last OG, it is a very slight parallel to his actual life story. So that kind of helps settle it.
Keep taking that Alka-Seltzer, Tracy.
Look, that was not his fault. He was nauseous. It's very anxious. If nobody knows, he went to an NBA game and why was he on the floor? What was he doing?
He had front row seats.
Oh, was it just front row seats?
Yeah, it's front
the way
row
they
seats.
pulled him
and
out,
he, like, vomited onto the floor.
Yeah.
It was great.
I thought it was
Another hilarious thing for one of the funniest people.
He is so funny. There is nothing I won't watch of him. He's hilarious. All right, Nick, what's yours?
Mine is YouTube, like people getting kicked off the plane and stuff like that, or like
Fighting over seats, like
yeah, or like there's always
a good
this one drunk lady who's like, I'm not getting off the plane, and the cops have to come like drag her off, and it's I don't know why it's so awesome, and people who like see me doing this are like, what are you doing? Like, why are you watching this? But I love it. That and people who refuse to show their ID when they're pulled over and have to get their windows broken and like dragged out of the car. I for some reason I like that.
I like to be mean to cops when I see them in person. I will sometimes act suspicious on purpose.
You're such a brat. Like they look bored.
I don't really have the skin luxury of doing that, Omar.
I was like, my bothering cops is my favorite white privilege.
Rob
Right.
does that a lot. And I have to be like, I'm sorry, the rest of us can't do that in your family? Please stop.
Yeah.
Because they ain't going to target you. They're going to go after us.
Right.
Please knock it off.
I enjoy it.
My YouTube thing, I'll get to my Wikipedia thing, but my YouTube thing recently is reaction videos to Stairway to Heaven. It's just the greatest rock song ever.
I guess like that generation, that newer generation is discovering that music.
It's like hip hop heads or like songwriters, like younger songwriters, like listening to Stairway to Heaven for the first time, which is really stupid because the only reason they do it is for when I search Stairway to Heaven, they can actually play Stairway to Heaven without a copyright problem.
Oh, sure.
That's the only reason they actually do it. But I love, like, I'll fast forward to the part where the drums drop in and watch their face go, whoa.
This is so awesome.
And, or like the beginning of the guitar solo, and then the beginning of the third verse when it's heavy metal now. It's just really fun to watch.
There's so many of these videos.
Yeah, there's so many reaction videos.
And then the same people will do like Whole Lotta Love or like other Led Zeppelin. And they'll be like, and they'll pretend like they don't know who Led Zeppelin is. I think it's kind of an act, but they'll be like, "Is Led Zeppelin
people really don't know who Led Zeppelin is?"
Yeah, I would say.
Yeah, there's a lot. Like, there's a lot of folks who don't know.
His drummer is John Bonham. You know, stuff like that.
Literally,
Anyway.
some people don't know who this. Let me tell you. Like, you are old.
Yeah.
So am I.
And Led Zeppelin was old when I was a kid.
Yeah, I was gonna say when you were a child, they were still old. So
I remember being a freshman in high school, and I bought Led Zeppelin 4 on cassette tape because Black Dog was like hot at that moment for some reason, and I put it in the
some people don't know what you just said.
Black Dog. Hey Mama said the way that song for the first track in Led Zeppelin 4, and my dad picked me up at the mall, and I put it in the tape deck of the car player, thinking I'm going to be a rebel, and I'm going to blow my dad's mind with this heavy metal music. And my dad goes,
they were considered heavy metal, huh? That's right.
They kind of
early.
They were very early.
They were. I mean, they not in terms of now, but like, yeah, that's right.
At the time, yeah. But my dad goes, "Oh, this is an old one," and turned it up. And I was like, I got to find a different way to rebel.
My roommate asked me who Janet Jackson was. I didn't know how to answer that question. I was like, I don't understand.
I don't understand. Get out of the room. Do you listen to Bob?
I don't understand the question.
Get out.
But to my Wikipedia thing. My most recent one, the other day, McFarland School District, I posted this on the site, that announced that they were going to rename Conrad Elvium Elementary School.
Oh, yeah.
Because as folks know, Conrad Elvium, very important Madison, he's born in McFarland, a Madison person. He was the president of the University of Wisconsin, a very prominent biochemist, but also a little bit racist. So,
and by a little bit, we mean racist.
Meaning he signed a housing covenant saying no black people in Tacoma, please.
Yeah.
Really?
And when he was the president of the university, the Madison Film Board tried to show a documentary about housing discrimination, and he was like, no.
Yep. So when Rob says little bit, he means, no, he was racist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So a lot of things that are around here that are named after him that are being renamed. And Conrad Elementary School, primary school in McFarland is one of them. That was news this week. I posted that, and in just doing a little bit of background for that to type up that story, one of the things he was most known for was kind of discovering the two compounds that make up vitamin B3. I also happen to know that the University of Wisconsin is big back in the day was one of the kind of the places where vitamins kept getting discovered. Hector DeLuca, for example, discovered vitamin D at I don't know if they named it vitamin D because it was DeLuca, or I don't know if that's a thing or not, but that's one of the things I went looking for on Wikipedia. I'm like, what is a vitamin? And it's because I see it's like vitamin
how do you discover
B3
them?
is,
Yeah.
and on Wikipedia, vitamin B3 is highlighted, so it's enticing you to click it.
Mhm.
And you click it, and it says it's an organic compound, and I'm like, okay, and it's created by enzymes or something, and I'm like, wait, so what actually physically in the world is a vitamin, and how many of these molecules are just in our blood all the time?
Mhm.
We need these vitamins, we need these minerals. Vitamins and minerals is what you hear as a kid all the time, right? And you're like, okay, so but how much is in there, and what is it actually? What does it look like? Where do these occur in nature?
Mhm.
In orange juice, I guess. I don't know. So anyway, that was my most recent one. It's like, what is a vitamin exactly?
Nice.
And how does something become a vitamin?
Wait.
And why are there two
Oh my
compounds
gosh,
that make
he's
up the
going-
vitamin
he
B3?
keeps going. This is my fault, y'all.
I still
I'm
don't
sorry.
know. I still
Rob
don't really
has
know.
taken the entire part of this section out of the three of us.
And why do British people call them vitamins?
Wow.
That's just because they talk silly.
That's not a real thing. All right, Rob.
All right, what's your setting?
I mean, it's not as exciting as vitamins or vitamins and such. So recently, I got really curious about whales. The other night, our youngest couldn't sleep, and so I was up with her, and so and I started to look up whales. I don't know. I like whales. I wanted to think about whales, and so I started thinking about whales, and reading the evolution of whales, or what's their proper name? I forgot already. Cetaceans. Is crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy. I didn't realize they were first, how far back they've existed, that they have hands. Some of them have hands still.
They have hip bones.
And they have feet.
Whales have hip bones that
Yeah.
don't attach to anything.
Yeah, there's a whole thing that people should just learn about,
Yeah.
like their triangle teeth, like there's a lot. And I was like, oh, whales are that mammal that's seen everything and have been through a lot.
They've been through a lot. Yeah.
They've seen a lot. They made a decision to go into the water because you know what? They were like, we're not about this life anymore. This land life, we can tell.
Yeah.
You all coming up soon, you all messy. Like they knew something was up and they were like, we're going into the water.
But didn't bother to evolve gills.
No.
Like-
So look, we're going to keep the best part of ourselves. We're going to leave the mess on the land because we know who's coming.
Mhm.
And we're just going to go in that water and we're going to live our best life. We're going to keep our little hands, even though,
Yeah.
and then some of them have feet. I was like, what? Hip
Yeah.
bones? Like, what is this?
Mhm.
The choices we make as we evolve. Just letting you know. They could be an example for for us. But I went on a while. It's a long page.
Looking at the evolution
I
of
was looking at it
cetaceans.
again. I was like, what is it? Yeah, they have. Yeah, there's a whole thing. There's a social structure for them that's been very interesting to read about too. But their decision making was about like, let's get out of here, into the water, into the ocean, and hang out. So that's it, folks. We will be back next week.
Have a great weekend. 365 Amplified is produced and edited by me, Rob Chappell, and is a production of 365 Media Foundation, a non-profit, local, independent media organization in Madison, Wisconsin. Wherever you're listening to this right now, hit the subscribe or follow button to get new episodes every Friday. And between episodes, get your latest news at madison365.org and follow us on Blue Sky, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Threads. Wherever you get your news, we'll be there.